Please welcome to the stage author, the president of New Disclosures, and the star of 3 5-minute videos with a total viewership of over 7 million views, James Lindsay.
I did not know I have 7 million views. That's a lot of views. So I'm going to set a timer. That's for your safety. Thank you, Marissa, PragerU, for inviting me. Of course, we all hope and pray the best for Dennis. Thank you, Tiffany, for actually giving me a warm-up act, because as a lot of you know, some of you know my brand. Not everybody knows my brand. I'm getting tired of all of these very down in the dumps, pessimistic, down low talks we've heard today. So I'm going to give the cheerful one. Or the opposite. Because I'm very worried about America. And to my credit, I didn't know this was an education event until I got here, so I prepared a completely different talk. But it's pretty much the same, because here's the truth. Here's the truth. We can be as much at Disneyland, conservative Disneyland, as we want to be, but I want to remind you, I'm the guy that reminds you that Disneyland is in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is on fire, and that fire was probably set on purpose. Because here's the truth. President Trump is entering the White House tomorrow, probably. We know how things go. And our schools are lost. It does not matter who the president of the United States is. If we do not fix education, America lives or dies. And I mean that. This is not hyperbole. America lives or dies based on education. Because as Tiffany said, teeing me up without meaning to, the great dictators of history, and I mean great in size, not in quality, the great dictators of history understood. The quote that she referenced from Hitler was, "He who gets the youth gains the future." Lenin said, "Give me your children for 4 years, I'll plant a seed so deep you'll never uproot what grows." If we stop everything that the left has done in our country, the immigration, all the other problems, and leave education unfixed, not only are we going to be certain to go back to where we are in no time, where we were headed, but we might not even get out of the hole we're in. Because let me tell you the truth, our children are not being educated. They are not being educated. They cannot read, on average, at grade level at least. They're not that interested in learning to read. They cannot do mathematics. They are ignorant of history. They are illiterate in the sciences. And they're being force-fed a diet of entitlement from left and right on the internet, because who's educating them today is not the school that's using the Paulo-Freirean methods that Marissa mentioned earlier to hijack and steal their education, to radicalize them in place of learning. Where they are learning is TikTok. Where they are learning is now Xiaohongshu. Do you know what that means? Little Red Book. You ever heard of that? They call it Red Note, and your kids are going to it in droves. I just saw a headline 5 minutes ago. As Tiffany was taking the stage, I glanced at my phone. According to Thanks to President Trump is the headline, TikTok is now going to be unbanned in America. It was banned for a day. Your children are being radicalized by foreign powers and domestic communists and fascists who want to destroy this nation. And if we do not correct their educations, we will lose this country, full stop. That's where we are. I'm sorry to be the downer of the party. Marissa said it's a roller coaster. There's up, there's down. She didn't tell you there's hairpin turn. I don't know if you spend as much time on the internet as I do. God, I hope you don't. But what's on there right now is positively horrifying. I mentioned TikTok, I mentioned Red Note, I didn't mention Instagram, and I didn't mention X. Let me tell you what my Instagram experience is like. My algorithm is really interesting. About every third thing, and I have no idea why, I don't click on this stuff, about every third thing I get is a racist joke. About every third thing on my Instagram feed is a racist joke right now. Used to be dancing girls. Bring back the hot chicks. My Twitter feed is split into thirds. Right now, it changes every 2 days. It's 1/3 pro-CCP propaganda, 1/3 pro-Nazi propaganda, and 1/3 this kind of what in the hell's going on. We are in a very dangerous place in this country. So let me just tell you, this is a weird room for me to get to give this lecture, and I've been in this room one other time in my life, 5 years ago. February, actually, of 2020. And I spoke to a equally distinguished but somewhat smaller room of people standing roughly in this exact spot. And I told them, February 25th, 2020, that a Chinese cultural revolution was going to kick off in America using critical race theory as the tool. Within 6 months, George Floyd died 3 months later to the day, and they laughed me off. I'm reading this book as I fly in to come here. It's called An Account Rendered, a dossier on my former self by Molita Moshman, who was radicalized in 1933 to become a Nazi. Her best friend was a Jew. And she wrote a letter to her Jewish childhood friend after she got over her madness in the late 1950s, trying to explain her radicalization. And she talked about the love of country being exploited to turn them to evil, the enthusiasm for the energy of moving forward that was exploited to turn them to evil. To the generational divide, does this ring true or what? To the generational divide that the young no longer want to listen to the old. Okay, boomer, you have boomer mentality. That's boomer theology. Boomer is a mentality. It's not an age. It's not a generation. We're in this place again. And I'm very, very afraid. And it's very weird, maybe providential. I'm making this statement in this room, given this history I have in this room today. 3 months. And America is going to be tested like it has never been tested. And we are going to face a lurch from our young people into Nazi ideology, into anti-Israel hate, into anti-Jewish sentiment, into racism like we have not seen in decades, maybe ever. How do we stop this? I was going to start with a joke. My friend said, tell a Jewish joke. Here's the Jewish joke I picked up on the internet. Maybe you won't get it. I am paid by Israel to make these remarks. I make this joke now because what I want to say is that the values that PragerU is teaching to our children are exactly the solution to this problem. Marissa did not put me up to shilling for your organizations, what the point of the joke was. The values of our country, of our Bible, of our history are exactly what stands between us and the abyss. And we're going to be tested. And we've already lost the chance to insulate ourselves against the first wave of that test. So I implore you to support this organization. I implore you to start having brave, honest conversations. I know people are afraid, and you're wrong to be afraid. It's reasonable to be afraid, and you're wrong. It is time to make a stand. It is time to stand up for the Constitution. It's not my time. It's time to stand up for the truth. It's time to stand up for truth and goodness, biblical values, and everything that's made America great. Pray for our country. Thank you.